I have been covering video games for a little while now. Today, I take my life in my own hands. Let's make something incredibly clear from the off. The title of this video is Titanfall 2, the definition of overrated. Not Titanfall 2, literally the worst video game ever made, worse than Battlefield 2042, oh my god, what were they thinking? Because this is not a bad video game. I don't think anyone is really gonna argue that Titanfall 2 is in fact bad. I know tons of people who love this game and will admit that it has some flaws, but I don't really know anyone who actually dislikes Titanfall 2. I do, however, know tons of people that say Titanfall 2 is one of the greatest video games ever made. Not one of the greatest FPS games ever made. Not one of the greatest multiplayer games ever made. Simply one of the greatest video games ever made. And in no conceivable universe do I think that statement is even partially true. I know that we all love this game, you know, when it first came out, and tons of video games kept letting us down and down year after year. And Titanfall 2 really seemed like a video game that got absolutely shafted and mistreated by the general public. We hold it in a special place in our hearts, and I still know people who actually do play the game to this very day. But I mean, it's been 6 years, and is it really that good anymore? I don't think so. Full disclosure, I am someone who did not play this game when it first came out, and immediately I know after you hear that, some people are going to be going to the comments and they're going to type, well, you weren't there when it first came out, you didn't understand the magic of playing it with the boys late at night instead of doing your homework, staying up all night grinding Frontier Defense. I get it. There are a lot of games from my teenage years that I loved that I had a very hard time criticizing, but now that I am older, I understand that, well, they had flaws, but I still love them. I'm not here to shit on anyone's enjoyment of this game. I'm just here to point out that Titanfall 2 is the definition of overrated. There have been games that have been called overrated throughout history, but they're usually easy targets. Games that kind of get the popular equals bad treatment. Games like Fortnite, any Call of Duty game, Overwatch. These are games that skew to a younger fan base most of the time, so they're very easy to hate on because of that reason alone. As much as you want to hate on them, those games are pretty good in a lot of places. I don't think people necessarily know what overrated means in said definition of it, so there you go, bada bing, bada boom. There it is. And this 100% applies to Titanfall 2, and maybe just the whole Titanfall franchise as a whole. Like I said earlier, I never played this game when it was super popular and it first came out, but actually, let's retract that statement a little bit. I said the game was super popular. Well, see, the game was competing with a lot of other games that were coming out around the time that were from, let's be honest, more popular and more well-established franchises. Even EA decided that this game should be competing with one of its own franchises, which, why did you do that, EA? I think a lot of people in their heads kind of confuse Titanfall 2 with other exo movement, wall ride, flying around shooter games like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Advanced Warfare, or Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. All of these games had that similar kind of movement, but to be fair, Titanfall 1 was really the first game that really had the exo movement at its core, and it really seemed to care about it. I love Black Ops 3, but I'll admit, as much as I like the movement system in that game, Titanfall 2 is, you know, it's definitely better. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track. I'm trying to barricade my fucking windows and my door from the angry fucking Titanfall fanboys who hate everything that EA does now from you know, decapitating me. So the game was not super successful financially when it came out, but critically, a lot of people loved it. They saw a very promising game in Titanfall 2, and they thought that people would play it for years to come, and by all technicalities, this is true. Critics really overcorrected in recent years. Within the last few years, Titanfall 2 has been hailed as one of the greatest video games ever made, and something that people should have given a bigger look at. It is now a very popular statement to say that Titanfall 2 is one of the greatest games ever made. But how did we get to this point where we are saying that Titanfall 2 is an all-time great video game? I do think it comes from people overrating the game. People have a very special attachment to Titanfall 2, and they adapt it as a part of their soul. Kind of reminds me of games like Fallout New Vegas or Half-Life 2, where if you criticize the game, you're criticizing anyone who likes it. A lot of Titanfall fans might have you believe that they're very wholesome, understanding understanding people, and I'm sure that some of them are, but I have seen some insane shit said from Titanfall fans about anyone that criticizes the game or anyone who even slightly praises EA, and let's be honest, the best thing to come out of the Titanfall franchise, which is Apex Legends. I'm not gonna hide the fact that I am a massive Apex Legends fan. Obviously, I'm an Apex Legends fucking YouTuber for the most part. I played Titanfall 1 when the beta came out. I got a key from a friend. I was like, wow, that game was actually pretty cool and neat, and I never thought about it again. See, that's the thing about Titanfall. Gameplay-wise, it's actually pretty refreshing, but it's nothing that is really like that addicting that makes me want to play it day after day. There were just other more interesting games coming out. People kind of blame the fact that the gaming industry is a ravenous beast that only promotes the same 3 or 4 franchises over and over again and really hates new ideas as to the reason why Titanfall 2 did not do as well as EA probably wanted it to, basically shit-canning Titanfall 3 in favor of Apex Legends. And there's probably some truth to that, but no one really wants to look at the deep, dark fact that maybe Titanfall 2 is not the best game ever made. Because of Titanfall 2's, you know, mediocre financial numbers and the fact that people kind of overlooked it for years once Apex Legends became popular and more people started to take a look at Titanfall, and people really overcorrected by saying Titanfall 2 is one of the greatest games ever made. They incorporate the fact that its campaign is the best FPS campaign of all time, and the multiplayer is new and exciting, and the mechanics make it something unlike any other FPS game. When both of these things, and I don't like saying this because I know everything is subjective, I feel like that statement is objectively not true. I've kind of been like rambling and prefacing, you know, kind of the vibe around, you know, the whole Titanfall 2 thing for a while. So I guess we should probably talk about what's actually wrong with the game. I'll talk about multiplayer and Frontier Defense in a moment, but let's be real, the main thing that anyone talks about actually when you bring up Titanfall 2 is the campaign. Titanfall 2's campaign is incredibly average. It's not bad, it's not good, it is simply there. People always talk about how emotional the campaign is and how good the story is. What is the story of the Titanfall 2 campaign? If you held a gun to my fucking head and you asked me right now to recite the story of the Titanfall 2 campaign, I would genuinely really struggle on telling you. I'm someone who remembers what they ate for dinner on Christmas Day 2006, but I can only tell you bits and pieces of the Titanfall 2 campaign story, and that is something that I have played recently as last year. It's just an average FPS campaign. There are certain objectives you need to complete and certain people you need to help in order to get to certain areas and to defeat certain bad men, and the end goal is to save everyone from a disaster. Except in Titanfall, you have mechs. The mechs that are the Titans are really cool, like, I guess. I, honest to God, spent about 80% of my Titanfall 2 campaign playthrough not in a Titan, which is kind of ironic because, you know, it's like in the name of the game. I found the fast and fluid sliding and wall riding gunplay to be infinitely more entertaining than anything you do in a Titan. Sure, Titans have really cool animations where, you know, you can like pull out the power cores or like, you know, break the other Titan's gun with your Titan. Like, those things are really cool and everything. But if unique animations are really all that we're pulling to as to why something is fantastic, then the Apex Legends heirlooms are the greatest thing ever introduced in gaming. People say, well, it's actually really cool that you could be like really fast and mobile in this big, heavy, giant mech. I mean, can you though? Even in the multiplayer, Titans kind of get shit on compared to just normal ass players. Titanfall 2 campaign is a very linear experience. There are some really cool, unique platforming sections that actually require you to interact with the world in a unique way, and those were by far the best parts of the campaign, but they're kind of too few and far between for them to really be something that is a staple of Titanfall 2. Yes, I know it's more than most FPS games do, so that is at least something. But besides that, the Titanfall 2 campaign is really just run around, shoot. Sometimes you'll go on a Titan to maybe kill other Titans, or sometimes you'll maybe just leave it on autopilot and you'll kind of just do your own things. That's way more fun. Characters in the Titanfall 2 campaign are not memorable at all. Cooper is basically a self-insert protagonist. He has absolutely no character at all. I guess he's kind of sassy. His only interesting interactions are the ones he has with BT, which is your Titan. And also, BT. I do like BT, but he's basically the stereotypical kind of like cool, sassy robot. He talks in a really deep voice as a badass, and every like 40 lines he'll say something funny. And everyone always talks about the emotional ending that made them cry. Really? I do like Titanfall 2's soundtrack for the most part, and it shines the most during the death of BT. However, this is completely undercut by the fact in the end credits scene is basically like, oh, BT is fine. His AI is okay. He's intact. I don't know why they couldn't have just let it be BT actually dies and have it have any emotional weight, but whatever. Everyone always points to how good the boss battles are in this game, and most of them you can complete in about a good 10 or 15 seconds. All of the boss fights in this game are kind of just undercut by a weird gimmick. Like, oh, Viper, this one flies. Once you figure out that Viper flies and you know what weapons you need to beat him, it is incredibly trivial. Even the last boss fight is just padded out by, oh, you do damage and then they go away for a little bit and, you know, then they come back, you do damage to them again. I have seen some people hail the Titanfall boss fights as masterclasses in gaming design. These are the most basic bitch boss fights I have ever seen, especially considering the characters you're fighting are so unmemorable. Yes, I know they put Ashe in Apex Legends, but honestly, her character is really basic. I think I bitch about the campaign enough. It's something that does not scream excellence, but it does have pretty cool sections and some nice moments. The Titanfall gameplay engine is interesting enough to the point where, yes, it can make a lot of the, you know, running through sections where you just kill enemies a lot more bearable. So, I mean, it's definitely not the worst campaign I've ever played. One of the best of all time? Fuck no, it's like a 6.57 out of 10 at the best. Alright, time to talk about the multiplayer, woo! Titanfall 2's multiplayer is good. I mean, I'm not gonna like lie to you and say that I think Titanfall 2's multiplayer is bad. I do admit a lot of the game modes feel weird. Like the only one I genuinely like is TDM, and that's not because I hate playing objective-based game modes. I love objective-based game modes. But the combat is easily the best part of Titanfall 2. I do love the interactions that can happen between different Titans, how certain Titans can counter other ones, and how even pilots themselves can actually take down Titans on their own. Titanfall 2 feels pretty fair. A lot of the guns do feel weak in comparison to other guns, but that's like every FPS game. A big problem I have with Titanfall 2 is just that if you know the movement of the game and you know how to absolutely abuse it with like the grappling hook and like nade jumping and everything, there is literally nothing that an average player can do to catch up to you. And I like this in a way, actually. The game wants you to have the most knowledge and the most skill to get ahead. I feel like at the end of the day, the Titans could fucking grind the game to a screeching halt. Like, everyone's running around, flying around, trying to hit, you know, cool shots on each other, and then goddamn nuclear missile just goes off in front, kills 4 people, and you're like, ah, I get it. Titans are supposed to be very strong. But the thing is, the game needed to make Titans something that were legitimately rare. When a Titan gets called in multiplayer, it should have been like the biggest fucking deal in the world. But instead, Titans kind of just feel like they're always there, always slowing down the gameplay. I'll admit the sound design and the interface of this game I'm actually a big fan of, and they basically did just carry all of it over to Apex. Apex's sound design and interface are very good in my opinion, but you know, we gotta give credit to Titanfall. I do love how fast Titanfall 2 could be at times, but at other times it is just so slow, and it really does feel super similar to Call of Duty, especially Black Ops 3, which is the game that has the best exo movement out of the entire franchise. Black Ops 3 had specialists though, which in a way were kind of like Titans. It's kind of like Overwatch, where they had ultimates that they could, you know, use every once in a while once they got them charged, and it could completely wipe enemy teams and you could go on massive kill streaks with them. Except those came out very quickly and were very fast. In Titanfall 2, it doesn't actually take that long to get into a Titan and start fighting people, but man, man, does it just make the game feel so much slower. I get that the point is that you need to kill people to get to your Titan. Sometimes your Titan can get taken out so quickly that it kind of feels like you did all that killing for nothing and you would have rather just stayed out of your mech. The gameplay feels very out of tune. There are also tons of like tactical abilities and grenades and other shit, but no one cares about those. Also, I've heard people praise the map design in Titanfall 2. Except for Angel City, I don't really like a single map in this game. They're very bland and very stale. It also doesn't help that certain Titans like Scorch are just way more fun to play than the other Titans. People always praise this game for being unique, but when I ever play Titanfall 2 multiplayer, I really just feel like I'm playing Black Ops 3 with mech suits. And that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Like I said, I really like Black Ops 2 multiplayer. As frustrating as Black Ops 3 multiplayer could be, it felt more consistent. Titanfall 2 multiplayer has matches that go so fast and they go so slow, and the matches can really feel like they drag out forever. And it honestly reminds me of Battlefield, and I fucking hate Battlefield. I know most of this is personal preference, and I'm not necessarily trying to present every single opinion I have as a fact here, but there are just objective flaws in the game design that are really hard to ignore. Well, I've already had enough people mad about me, so let's actually say some nice things about Titanfall 2. I actually really like Frontier Defense. Maybe I'm just a sucker for firefight horde modes and FPS games, but I have always liked Frontier Defense. It has always been my favorite part of Titanfall 2. Mainly because of Frontier Defense, you're not having to navigate these linear-ass levels with brain-dead enemies. You're actually having to fight against a wave of enemies that get stronger and stronger as you get stronger. Also, your Titan actually feels insanely valuable in this game mode compared as to multiplayer, where Titans are kind of just meh. I get that PvP and PvE are entirely different, but this really feels like the Titanfall that I like. You can decide to be a pilot and just wall run and fly around and take advantage of the bad AI in this game to get ahead in Frontier Defense, or you can just be in your overpowered Titan doing everything you can, fighting waves of enemies, charging up your batteries, getting stronger, and seeing how long you can go. And this is incredibly fun with friends. I feel like this gets the pace of Titanfall correctly. It has some flaws. It can be a bit stale. The maps are uninteresting, and honestly, all of the waves do start to feel the same after a little bit, minus the tick waves. But hey, I still like it, and I guess I also have to mention is the speedrunning community. I do love how crazy the movement can actually get in this game, and I do appreciate that there are some people who have taken the training wall run, speed run, free run section of the game to something of an insane degree as a high level octane speed run. I always just love when little things in games like this are taken so seriously, and it's really awesome to see how the record has been lowered over the years. Look, Titanfall 2 is not a bad game. And I know that people will probably cherry pick games I like and games that I have praised highly on the channel and say, oh, this guy doesn't have good fucking taste. But really, go play through the entirety of Titanfall 2. Well, I mean, try your best with the fact that the servers don't work. I guess go play the North Star client. Also, Titanfall fans, I'd appreciate it if you would not hack my channel and change my name to SaveTitanfall.com. Thanks. But like I was saying, go play through Titanfall 2 again and really try and look at it with a critical eye, and then the cracks will slowly start to show. Gaming has evolved a lot in these last 6 years, and I think Titanfall 2 is something that definitely deserved more recognition than it got. Now we've gotten to the point where Titanfall 2 is put on the biggest of pedestals. Hopefully I didn't make too many people mad in this video, but I've never ever seen this game actually criticized, really, so I figured someone should say something, because I'm really tired of having to explain myself to people when I say that I don't think this is the greatest game of all time. It's definitely a well-executed concept in some areas, and in others, well, it just falls a bit short. At the end of the day, Titanfall 2 is an above-average experience for an FPS multiplayer game. If you like fast movement and you like big mechs, you always like Titanfall. But if consistently good game design and an overall fresh new experience is something that you're looking for, Titanfall 2 may not be everything that people told you it would be. My final score for Titanfall 2 is a 7 out of 10. Very overrated. Join my community Discord, my Instagram and Twitter, and my follow my Spotify in the descriptions below. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. You guys know that I genuinely do read the comments, so I just talked your ear off for like half an hour or however long this video is, so I don't see why you can't give me your opinion. Keep it civil in the comments, and as always, have a damn good one.